what's going on, everybody? Good afternoon. It is Wednesday, March the 8th, 2023, 2:02 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is episode 206 of McRae Live, and I thought I would jump on and talk about two movies that I watched last night for the first time. A little late to the party on them, but why not talk about them and give you my thoughts. Now, this is not a review of these movies, of course. For those of you that may not know, I'm not a movie reviewer, but I like to jump on and talk about whatever I feel like talking about. And if anybody wants to tune in because they're interested, then they will. If not, that's okay too. So last night I finally got around to watching the movie, The Autopsy of Jane Doe, and also the movie, The Sadness. And I watched The Autopsy of Jane Doe first, and then I watched The Sadness. So let me talk about The Autopsy of Jane Doe. So and I guess I should say spoiler warning for anybody who hasn't seen either of these movies. The Autopsy of Jane Doe is a movie that I really, really liked. But I liked the first half far better than I did the second half. The first half of The Autopsy of Jane Doe is really good. It's eerie, it's suspenseful, it's claustrophobic, right? It's about this father and son coroner team who, do autopsies in this small town, I believe, in Virginia. And the dad, who's played by Brian Cox, I first saw him in The Ring back in 2002, although he's been acting for years. He looks, I don't know if he hasn't aged or what, but he looks as old as he did anyway. So this, really like the premise. And there's this body, this Jane Doe. Obviously, you call somebody a Jane Doe and a John Doe when you don't know the identity of them. And the body is pretty intact, rigor mortis hasn't set in, like it looks like it was just, like it had literally just died like 5 minutes ago, even though it had been quite some time. So that's really weird, right? It's very suspicious. And of course, they do it, I believe they run this autopsy business, this coroner business out of their home, I believe, in the basement. And so, I mean, it's just like the shots are great and the setting is great. And, there's thunder and lightning and rain, which is great. And, Brian Cox obviously is the more experienced of the two. His son is still his son is good, but he's still kind of under his dad's wing and learning the ropes and then in comes this Jane Doe and they have to, the sheriff wants a COD, cause of death, like now, soon, shortly, tonight. Before morning, and it's already like 9 o'clock at night. They're like, fuck, anyway. So they get down to it, and the more that they analyze this body, and the more that they dissect it and remove organs, the weirder and weirder it becomes. How did this individual die? How is that possible? How are there no markings on the side? All that kind of stuff. It just gets stranger and stranger. All the while, there's like a thunderstorm outside with rain and wind and lightning and stuff. And so I was captivated. It was a very eerie film. And it was just, and because there's this dead body lying on the table, right, with the eyes like this, even though the body is dead, because of the kind of movie it is, you're almost expecting it to, wake up or start breathing or sit up and turn its head, or something like that, right? You're kind of anticipating that possibility, even though it never happens with Jane Doe. Now, of course, they're also doing this in a room with, a lot of the, I think they have 3 bodies in the wall. You put them in the wall and you close the, the thing. And So, again, they're in the basement, fluorescent lighting, overhead, kind of stuff. And it's a very eerie mystery thriller at that point. And that's the first half. And it's very, very eerie. And then even up to the point where when they start to do things on the body and they start to suspect that, they have like the radio on in the background and it's playing some tunes and stuff. But then as they do, different things to the body, it's almost like it's affecting the radio, like maybe some EVPs coming through or something. It kind of feels like that, but not quite. It's like, what's going on? Affecting the lights, all that kind of stuff. It's just a very eerie, atmospheric film. I was on the edge of my seat for the first half. Once they start to unravel what it was, or what, they start to kind of unravel. And listen, I totally get that, when you are building a slow burn, mysterious kind of movie, which is what the Autopsy of Jane Doe is. When you're building that kind of, it's the first half, my kind of horror movie, right? My kind of horror movie. I'd love to live my life making those kinds of horror movies. And I get that there's got to be some sort of payoff. I get that. But some of the things they did in the second half, I don't think was necessary. I think you could have removed a lot of it, and I don't think the audience would have been any of the wiser, or not any of the wiser. I don't think the audience would have cared, because everything up to that point was so strong. It was so, in my opinion, very strong in the world of, mood, atmosphere, suspense, anticipation. It was very strong. And then, so once and again, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, but once they eventually figure out that this is, that there's been a sacrifice, witches involved, and the transference of, I believe she is a witch, if I'm not mistaken, or it's been transferred or something like that. I've only seen the movie once, and just last night. But they like peel back the skin, and there's like this satanic markings on the inside of the skin. How is that possible? They read from the Bible, they're reading verses and all this kind, and it's cool. But then when shit hits the fan, right? Obviously they're going to put her in the incinerator and, to be cremated, and obviously she doesn't want that. You know what I mean? But again, she's just a dead body there, but she's not actually dead, because there's still kind of, it's really well done. But then shit hits the fan, and the bodies in the morgue begin to, now, it's well, for what it is, it's well done. I will say this: if you had to do it, if you had to go there and start leaning into the more of the horror tropes, what they did was well done. I just think there was a few things they didn't need to do. Like there was this one shot, for example, there's this one shot where the son is looking through he had put a hole in the door with an axe, and he's looking through the door, right? And it's his, and it cuts between him, his POV, him, his POV, him, his POV, looking through, and something's going to like appear in front of you. just know the way it's set up. And sure enough, something does. And it's one of those like kind of, faces, and it's like, oh, and it's like, I didn't need that. You don't need that in this movie. You don't need that at all in this movie. A couple of the times, there's a body that's walking down the hall into the light, out of the light, into the, I do like how it was done, and then it ended up being his girlfriend who was accidentally killed. And, it's this whole thing, but there's just certain things like, when Brian Cox's character gets pulled by something we don't see in the bathroom, and then there's like this kind of fight, with this thing or whatever. There's bits of that I like, and then there's stuff I'm like, I don't think it just became, I don't want to say typical horror movie, because again, what I think they did, if you had to lean into it, I think it was done well. There were just certain things I'm like, you don't need that. You don't need to show that. You don't need that. You don't even have to have that scene in here, because everything else was so strong. So strong. You know what I mean? And that's how I felt about it anyway. So I really liked The Autopsy of Jane Doe. I just like the first half better than the second half. However, I've only seen the movie once. So when I watch the movie again, I would definitely watch that movie again. When I watch the movie again, the second half might grow on me a bit more. And again, it's not that I don't understand, you know, for people who might be like, well, you just don't understand. No, I get I get it. I get the parallel and the connection to the opening scene of the movie and how it all, and then they're all dead and they're all dead again. And she's actually still dead. I get all that. I understand it. I just think there were some horror tropes, a few horror tropes. Let me just say that. I believe there were a few horror tropes that I don't think you needed. I didn't think you need to go, I understand payoff, but I don't think you needed to be quite so sensational because everything else was so strong that you could have just rode that bus right to the, again, you have to have a payoff. I get that. But you could have rode that bus right to the end with a little bit of payoff, and I think the film would have still been fantastic, and people would have loved it. I don't think anybody would have been like, oh, I was missing a face, you know, in the doors. I don't think anybody would have cared. You know what I mean? It just, little things like that. And there were a few things that, yeah, there's a couple of just let's say half a dozen horror tropes that I was like, you don't need that. Get that out of here. You don't need it. You don't need it. But overall, really liked it. If you haven't seen The Autopsy of Jane Doe, you've got to watch it. It's a really good movie. Like overall, at the end of the day, it's a really good movie. It's a really good movie. And if you're somebody that's not quite as picky as me, you might watch, you know, the last half and be like, oh, the fuck, Dave, this is great. This is great. And it's true. It's good. It's good. I just think that first half, that mystery and that buildup is so strong. You know, it's so strong. It's good shit. Now, the other movie that I watched last night was a horror movie that came out. The Autopsy of Jane Doe, I think, was quite a few years ago now. I think it was like 2016, 2015, something like that. Quite a few. In the world of online fandom, I guess that's quite a few. A few years ago. Whereas The Sadness, I think, was just like 2 years ago or something. The Sadness is one of the bloodiest, goriest movies I've ever seen. It's not a, I want to say, is it a Taiwan film or what is it? It's not, I don't think it's Korean. It was directed by a Canadian, but it's not a Canadian film. Anyway, foreign film, subtitle, okay. Southeast Asian or Southeast Asian? Is that? Yeah, I guess that's right. If you're in the Korean, they're Southeast. I think I'm right. I think I've got to think of my geography. Anyway, did I like The Sadness? Sure, for what it was, you know, like I kind of feel about The Sadness, and although they're two completely different movies, and I don't quite feel as sad after watching Terrifier or Terrifier 2, I feel sort of the same way, right? So The Sadness is not my kind of horror movie at the end of the day, but it's one of those things where it's like everybody's talking about it. It's so bloody, it's great. You got to watch it. I'm like, okay, I'm all in. Like, I'm again, just because my kind of horror movie at the end of the day is more of the suspense, theater, the mind, mood, and atmosphere, doesn't mean I don't like a good blood, guts, and gore movie every now and then. I'm totally down for it. So, and you can't quite there's not too many movies that are gorier than The Sadness. So I watched it, and it's essentially about this Asian couple who part for the day, and they're trying to get back to each other once a virus gets out there into the general population. And Evil Alex is Thailand. Yeah, that's what I thought. And they get out, you know, it gets out into the population, and they become, for all intents and purposes, they become zombies. Now, they're not zombies, but they're zombie-like. And, the virus affects their, they want to eat people. They want to have sex with people. They want to, it's crazy. And you're essentially following the woman more than you are the man, although you do follow the man. I found the man to be very, I don't know who the actor is, and I say this with all due respect, dull and boring. I really, now to be fair, I mean, I get the situation. I didn't feel that urgency in just he was just, I don't know. He just didn't have a care. I just didn't see anything. He just was dull to me. The woman was different. She was good. And the woman that played Molly, the chubbier Asian girl, she was good. But anyway, so it's bloody as hell and it's gory as hell. And it's, but sometimes it's that, not all the time, but sometimes it's that over the top blood and gore where you sort of chuckle. Like there's a couple of times on the subway train. And if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Where, people get stabbed in the neck or bit in the neck, and this fountain of blood, like Glenn from A Nightmare on Elm Street out of the bed, like seeps out of their neck up onto the ceiling, and it's like, I mean, it's comical, but not in a bad way. It's just like, oh, wow. Okay. Like that man literally just lost his entire volume of blood in 0.4 seconds. There's a lot of that. Blood all over the ground, sliding through blood, faces getting smashed in, teeth. I mean, it's a bloody movie. And it's a very, the title of the film absolutely rings true. The Sadness. It's a sad movie. I don't know if I've ever felt so dystopic. And I get that this is the idea. But I don't know if I've ever felt so dirty, like I wanted to take a shower, and so depressed after watching a movie as I did watching The Sadness. It's apocalyptic, it's dystopian, it's sad, it's dreary, you may want to watch something light after, you may want to watch a funny comedy after or something just to wash it off of you. It's not a movie that I will ever watch again. I don't, I've seen it. I get it. I don't need to watch it again. Whereas the Autopsy of Jane Doe, totally. Even though I liked the first half better than the second half, I don't hate the second half. I liked it. I just thought the first half was stronger. But the Autopsy of Jane Doe, I definitely would watch again. I would probably own that film. I liked it enough to own. The Sadness, I've seen it. I get it. I get its shtick. I get what it was. And for what it is, it did a really good job. There's this one shot of this woman falling off of her roof or the balcony or something, and they don't cut away. You see her just fall and hit the road. It's pretty intense. And then of course, again, all the people being eaten and the cannibalism and there's like group sex between these 5 people all having sex with blood all over them. I mean, in a hospital. It's crazy. It is violent and gory and apocalyptic and dystopian and everything everybody says it is. And so if you're the kind of horror fan where you are into the blood, the guts, and the gore, and the oversaturation of that, and you find that just fuck yeah, then you're probably gonna really like The Sadness. You're probably really gonna like The Sadness, and you may not care. Maybe it'll just get you going. You'll love it. Be like, yeah, the sadness. Maybe you will. No, I have no desire to ever make movies like that. I mean, look, if somebody was like, hey, Dave, we'll pay you $10 million to make a zombie apocalyptic blood, guts, and gore movie. Well, everybody's got a price. But I have no desire to make those kinds of movies. It's not, and I respect, they have their place. Absolutely. They have their fans. They are pretty much a subgenre all on their own. So I get it. I get it. But I would much rather watch a movie like Train to, is it Train to Busan? Is that what it is? I think that's what it is. You know the movie I'm talking about. I'd rather watch that. Now, again, those are actual zombies and not like, you know what I mean? Whatever they were in The Sadness. But I would rather watch that because that's apocalyptic, that's dystopian, but it doesn't make you feel like you need to take a shower afterwards or watch something light. Now, it could also be because it has a, you know, even though it's quite dreary, the ending, it has a uplifting-ish ending, you know, with the girl getting to safety despite but it's also sad too because of her father and all that kind of stuff. That movie is fan-fucking-tastic. Train to Busan, yeah. Yeah, Train to Busan is fucking fantastic. I hadn't seen that, and it was recommended to me by Darren Sands of the Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast. And so I watched it about, I don't know, a year or so ago. I actually own it. But I just hadn't watched it. And it was fantastic. Again, subtitled. So I believe that's a South Korean film, if I'm not mistaken. And I only say that because some people don't like subtitled movies, and I get it. I can watch a subtitled movie where I may turn on the dubbed version if there is one. Is if I'm watching a television show, like the show Dark on Netflix, the German show Dark. Fantastic. Like the Autopsy of Jane Doe, I think it started stronger than it ended. But Dark was a great show with twists and turns, and it was very cerebral and very intense. And because of that, and because there were 3 seasons and like 30 episodes or something, I just needed to not be reading. I needed to pay attention. So if I'm watching a series, like there's another series called Into the Night, which I think is a Belgium series on Netflix. I don't know if they're ever going to do a 3rd season. They've done 2. I quite liked it. It was subtitled, so I turned on the dubbing just because I'm watching hours, right? I'm not just watching like a 2-hour movie. I'm watching like 30 hours, you know, and so I find that I don't want to be reading so much. I want to pay attention to what they're saying. But a movie, once you get into the groove, like usually it takes me about 10 or 15 minutes to find my groove with reading subtitles. And then I do. And then, you know, I get into the groove and then I'm totally fine. And I can do that for like 90 minutes, 2 hours. But if I'm watching a series, you know, I'll probably watch it dubbed. And I know that might be blasphemous for some because, you know, you're getting the voice actor's version. But maybe it's because I'm a voice actor and I understand the craft and so it doesn't bother me. But yeah, The Sadness is woo, gory, especially at the end there when Kat is slamming the fire extinguisher, into that guy's face, just slam and slam and slam. And it's like, holy shit, it's crazy. It's crazy stuff. It's a, I don't know if I want to say, I mean, is The Sadness a good movie? I don't know. Is it? Like, I'll leave that to people who understand that subgenre more. I mean, I guess it is. It's not my kind of horror, but I had to watch it for the same reasons I had to watch Terrifier and Terrifier 2, right? I respect, I mean, from a filmmaking standpoint, the effects and the shots, it's fantastic. You know, my hat goes off to, you know, to people that do it. It's just not my kind of stuff. But yeah, so anyways, those are my thoughts on the Autopsy of Jane Doe and The Sadness. If you have seen either of those movies, comment below and let me know your thoughts on what you think about the Autopsy of Jane Doe and The Sadness. Do you agree with some of the things I've said here today? Do you disagree with some of the things I've said here today? Jump into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. I would like to know. Let's jump over to the chat room now and see what you guys are saying about this and whether you or not you have any thoughts on The Sadness and the Autopsy of Jane Doe. I know some super chats did come in, so let's quickly grab them. Nighttime sends in $5 and says, I like the sadness, but the film's colors look very washed out, unlike our horror films. The sadness has the lighting of a hot desert, kind of annoyed me. I didn't feel that way at all. I had no issues with the color timing or the color correction. So, I don't know. Maybe it was your TV. I'm not really sure. That's not anything that I noticed. So I'm not really sure. I'm not saying you're wrong. It's just something I didn't pick up on. Let's see here. 666. Woo! Sends in $4.99. Says, good morning, Dave. 11 a.m. here in California. Can we get a But Dave? But Dave! Also, since you're Canadian, how big is Bryan Adams there in 2023? Seeing him April 28th. Well, I mean, he's a Canadian legend for sure. Is he relevant today? I mean, I mean, he's old. I mean, how big is he? I guess he could be kind of Canada's Bruce Springsteen to a degree, I guess, It's not like I hear anybody talking about him or anything like that. But yeah, he's big. Yeah, he's Canadian, he's up there, him, Shania Twain, Celine Dion, Gordon Lightfoot, what's his face? Leonard Cohen. He's dead now. A lot of Canadian artists. The Guess Who, Rush. A lot of great Canadian artists. Have fun. Nighttime follows up with The Sadness versus Terrifier 2. Oh, The Sadness is far gorier. It's far gorier. Now, that doesn't mean that it's like in terms of blood, it's the amount of blood, the volume of blood, The Sadness, for sure, hands down. It's not even close. In terms of the torture, and showing you that torture, maybe Terrifier 2 has a leg up in the bedroom scene, maybe. I don't know. But The Sadness is pretty gory. I said to Darren Sands earlier today, I said, whenever I watch a movie like Terrifier 2 or The Sadness or some big blood, guts, and gore movie, one of the first things that always pops into my head is that the sound designers and the audio engineers and the mixers must just have a field day with this kind of stuff, because without the I mean, it loses a lot of its impact. I mean, the is like 75% of your oh God right there. Do you know what I mean? Josh McKenna sends in $9.99. Thank you, Josh, and says, people have told me I would make a great director. That's cool. Why do you think they say that about me? I have no idea, Josh. I don't know you. I know you don't know me personally, so maybe a better question is, what traits does a good director have? Well, I mean, listen, I'm not an experienced director, so, I can only speak from the little experience I have thus far. But having been in the business for 22 years now and having been directed by a lot of directors in my life and having worked on certain sets and have known directors, I would say that, and this is just me, a good director is a good communicator and a good listener and a collaborative person. The director always gets the last say. It's their vision, right? But I believe a good director is willing to listen, not just to the actors, but to the crew, maybe with certain suggestions. Again, it's not black and white, right? Okay. I mean, there's a lot of different variables at play here. I mean, in a general sense, right? In a general sense, a good director is a good listener and somebody who is collaborative, really, at the end of the day. And a very effective communicator can effectively communicate to the actors, what they see, what they want to be able to get the best performance from that actor. And is able to effectively communicate to the crew their vision So the crew knows exactly what they need to do to be able to start executing that vision for the director. And it's easier said than done. You know, it's not about just going, do this, do that, do this, do that. You know, it's like doctors, right? There are some doctors that have great bedside manners, right? They're take the time, they sit there, they answer questions. They're really good. And then there are doctors that don't have bedside manners at all. And they feel very cold and distant and clinical. You know, and look, I mean, as long as he or she is saving your life, then I mean, who cares, right? If they're nice or not. But in a position like a director, you are the boss, you are the manager, right? And you are managing a team of people. And so if you as a boss is a fucking piece of shit and you're anal and you don't have a good demeanor, you don't have a good personality, you don't have a good attitude, right? To be able to bring your team together, then, you know, people are not going to want to work for you. And, you know, people are going to be like, God, you know, but as a director, you are the team leader. You are the leader on set. The buck stops with you. And you are somebody that, you know, like you want your team to work with you. Again, look, I've shot, I would say that look, when we shot It's Me, Billy, it was very important for Bruce and I to be as prepared as possible. Now, we are naturally collaborative people anyway, and outgoing and friendly and good communicators. We are like that anyway, but it was very important to us from the get-go to be very prepared and very on point to give that respect to our actors and crew, because then when they see that you're fighting for them and that you're prepared and you know your stuff, you know what you want, you're not sitting there going, I don't know. You know, I mean, that doesn't instill confidence in anybody, right? If the leader has no confidence, now what, right? But if you are prepared and confident and that ripples through the entire set. When you are certain on your vision, you're confident, you're confident, you're an effective communicator, and you know how to effectively articulate that vision to everybody on set, your cast and your crew are going to want to work for you. And they're going to want to work hard for you. You know what I mean? And then it really feels like a team effort at that point. So those are my thoughts. Again, I mean, as far as directing goes, obviously I'm not as experienced as some people I know. But with the more films that I make, the more experienced I will become. But those are my thoughts. But like I said, I mean, having worked in the position that I have for a long time, I've been directed by great directors and really shitty directors. And one of the commonalities of a really shitty director is they're just not really good at communicating. They're not good at communicating what they want, or they have an attitude. They're not directors. They're just producers who want to direct. You know what I mean? Sometimes that could be the case. A director is a specialized craft and skill. You know, you are the team leader. You are a manager. You're a manager for all intents and purposes. And you need to effectively lead and manage. And as we know, not everybody can. So hopefully that answers that for you. Edward Nito sends in $10. Thank you, Edward. And says, sup, Dave? If presented with the offer, would you lend your voiceover talents to work on some of the Godzilla movies from 1954 and 1995? 1954 to 1995. You'd be outstanding, in my opinion. I would. I mean, not for free, of course. I'd want to get paid. But yeah, no, of course. Yeah, for sure. That'd be awesome. Of course, now that would be redubbing, obviously. That'd be redubbing. But yeah, of course. That'd be awesome. All right. I think I've got all the super chats that have come in so far, I believe. Cody Snyder is here. Great to see you here, Cody. Great to see you here. Evil Alex says, you saw the overall great reviews for Scream 6. You and me are just casual fans, but me hyped for it, and slasher overall, good horror films. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so I've seen I have seen the early reviews of Scream 6. None of it surprises me. I've also spoken to a couple of people that have seen it that didn't not like it, but just thought it was, another Scream film. So the general consensus I'm getting is that it's bloodier, it's gorier, it's more intense. Well, that'll excite a lot of Scream fans. Okay. Ghostface really is more intense and it's more gruesome than maybe it's the most gruesome out of them all, out of all of them. Great. Okay. But the general consensus that I'm getting is that it's just another, it's good. Like there's nothing wrong with it. It's good for what it is. It's just another Scream movie though. It doesn't, you know what I mean? Like they could never make another one and nobody would care. You know what I mean? And that's one of the reasons why I was hoping that it would end on a cliffhanger. Now, I don't know if it does or doesn't. I'm just saying that that's one of the reasons why I was hoping it would, because then it does matter, right? It does matter if it goes in that direction. Now, again, I don't know if it does or doesn't. I'm just saying, right? So I don't know. Again, I'm a casual Scream fan, but I really only like the first one. I can take or leave any of the sequels. I'm not saying they're bad. They're just a lot of the same. A lot of slashers are the same. So I don't know, but it doesn't surprise me, hearing the usual, it's got a good Rotten Tomatoes rating. I'm sure the fans are going to like it because it's a different setting. So, you put a Scream movie in a different setting, in a different environment, returning characters, you amp up the blood and gore and the intensity. If it's a little familiar, maybe people will look the other way. And then perhaps there's this illusion that's created that it's better than it really is. I don't know. I haven't seen it. This is just speculation from the little tidbits of information that I received from people who have seen it. So I don't really know. But certainly it's getting really good reviews, and with some people saying that it's the best since the original. Now if that's true, I don't know. I haven't seen it, but I guess we're going to find out. Justin Hill. Hey, Justin says, hey, Dave, just wondering if you spoke to Tony about a possible watch along of House of the Devil. And I think The Exorcist 3 would be good too. The mood, atmosphere, story make for a great dialogue. Yeah, I did. Tony wasn't crazy on the House of the Devil. He wasn't too crazy on it. So I don't think a watch along of the House of the Devil will be happening anytime soon, unfortunately. But Tony is a big fan of The Exorcist 3. So I could totally see us doing that, or at the very least doing if not a watch along, doing a discussion on it, because I would love to talk about The Exorcist 3. I think it's great. I mean, really, you can just watch The Exorcist, leapfrog over The Heretic, and just go to Dominion. You know what I mean? Like you don't really, or not Dominion. That's the fucking remake. Legion. So I don't even think you need to, do that. It's my opinion. Let me see. Haunted Basement says, hey, Dave, you going to go see Scream 6 this weekend? No, I don't know when I'm going to see Scream 6. I have no idea. I've never seen a Scream movie in the movie theater before in my life. Even the first one I never did. Bruce saw the first one in the theater back in 96. I think he went, I got to ask him if he remembers. I think it was like he was by himself or something. Or it was that he had because horror's not Bruce's, I know it's kind of ironic because we're doing, It's Me, Billy, and we wrote a horror treatment as well, but Bruce's first love when it comes to genre films is science fiction fantasy. Now, obviously, there's a reason why they call it science fiction, fantasy, and horror, right? So, because you can have horror in science fiction, right? Horror isn't just slashers and blood, right? Horror can be, thematically, as well. But I don't know why he saw Scream 6. I didn't, but I remember him telling me, way back then it was really good. And so I watched it on VHS whenever it came out on VHS, I watched it. So it wouldn't have been until, I don't know what, sometime maybe in the spring in 1997 or something. I'm not really sure. And I remember watching it home and I remember liking it a lot. I thought it was a lot of fun. I was, 97, I was turning 18. So I liked it. I was pretty much the age of Nev Campbell, Matthew Lillard, they are a bit older than me. I think they're in their late 40s. But they were playing teenagers in and around the age that I was at that time. So I could resonate with it really well. And of course it's horror and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. But no, I won't be going to see it in the theater. I'll probably, to be honest with you, again, because I'm not a review channel, I don't have that expectation that I have to go see everything when it comes out opening weekend, right? I can take my time with stuff because sometimes there's movies I just don't want to pay for to go see. I'm like, I don't want to go see that. I don't want to go see that. And nobody's expecting me to talk about it. So, I just like having that control over the content. So no, unless for whatever reason, Bruce is suddenly like, hey, you want to go see Scream 6 this weekend? I'll be like, okay, sure. Yeah. Okay. But so I'm not sure when we're going to get to it. But hold on to your potatoes, as Short Round would say in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. We'll see what happens. Let's see here. Did you read Edward's super chat? I did, Evil. Yes. Edward Nito. Yeah. I did. Unless there's a super chat I'm missing. I don't think so, though. I don't think there's anything I'm missing. Is there something I'm missing? I don't think so. So, okay. Aaron Click says, hey, Dave, did you chastise Tony for not being big on the House of the Devil? If not, you need to. Joking. No. It just wasn't his, I don't know specifically. We didn't really talk about it. It was just a quick text message. He just says he wasn't feeling it. He just says he wasn't vibing. So that just tells me it just wasn't his jam, and maybe it was too slow for him. Maybe, I don't know. I don't really know. We just kind of left it at that and moved on. So I'm not really sure, but I'm a big fan of the House of the Devil. I really like that movie a lot. I think I even said on one of my streams where I was talking about it, I said, if I could make horror movies like The House of the Devil for the rest of my life, like if somebody said, okay, Dave, you can make movies for a living, because obviously right now I don't make movies for a living. I'm a voice actor. That's my living. I would love to be able to make movies for a living. That'd be great. That's the goal, right? That's what we're working towards here. But if somebody said, okay, Dave, all right, you can make movies for a living, but you've got to make just low budget indie horror movies with lots of mood and atmosphere, with a small cast in big houses and things like that. Like The House, I'd be like, okay, look, the creative person inside me would probably at some point want to branch out and do something a bit different. I could totally see that. But if I had to, I love those kinds of movies. I love, whether it's The Others, The House of the Devil, The Autopsy of Jane Doe, whatever it is, just that's small cast, big home, mood, atmosphere, claustrophobia, eerie, suspense, theater. Like, I just love that kind of stuff. That's my jam. That's my vibe. And so, yeah, to be able to make movies like that would be... Hush is another one by Mike Flanagan. Like, films like that. I love stuff like that. That doesn't mean that if I was, and if I made a ton of movies or a few movies like that were really good, somebody might be like, hey, this guy's really good. We should get him to do, I don't know, Elm Street or Halloween or, whatever, right? Then you kind of move up the ladder a bit, and then you have a bigger budget with a bigger crew and a larger cast and a few more locations and, whatever, right? But if I had to live in a world of, like films like The House of the Devil and Autopsy of Jane Doe, like shit like that, I probably would be very, because there's so much stuff you can do, you know, that can be really effective horror and storytelling and all that kind of jazz. You know, that doesn't mean I might not want to branch off and do an action movie or something, but I mean, you know, just the thought of that is so intimidating. You know, you go from like The House of the Devil to something like a Die Hard. Oh, it's so intimidating, which you wouldn't do that anyway. Nobody'd be like, hey, you know, that guy that did, you know, I don't know. Yeah, you know, the guys that did It's Me, Billy, let's get them to do the new Superman movie. It's not going to happen. So, you know, you got to kind of work your way up to that, right? But it's still, I think that's what I really like about It's Me, Billy as well, is it's the kind of horror. I mean, yes, you know, we're not getting paid for it, obviously. But, you know, we're going about it the way that the way that they went about The House of the Devil or Hush or whatever, right? It's a, you know, through and through, it's a professional shoot from top to bottom. So, and I like the close knit of that. And I think especially for somebody like me, who's stepping onto that level for the first time, it's a nice starting point because it's one location, maybe two locations, right? Small cast, small crew. That's nice. But I like that though. I like that vibe. You know, I like that. There's an emotional connection to not only the space and the location, but to the cast, to the crew. You know, you feel connected to everybody's ideas and vibe and energy. And I really like that kind of stuff, you know? So yeah, totally. And chapter 2 of It's Me, Billy is going to be the same thing. You know, it's going to be the same thing, you know, one location, small cast, small crew, you know what I mean? Same thing. So, I like that kind of stuff. You know, it's great to start there for sure. Most people do, but I'm just saying it's great. But yeah, no, he just wasn't jamming with it. Wasn't jamming with it. Wasn't jamming. That's all right. Different strokes for different folks. Sean McCartney sends in £4.49 and says, hey, Dave, which lasted longer, Judith Meyer's boyfriend or Tony Moran's screen time? I think Judith Meyer's boyfriend lasted a little longer, but not a lot. Not a lot longer, not leaps and bounds longer, not minutes longer, maybe 10 seconds longer. Tony Moran's screen time was pretty quick if I do say so myself. Raymond M sends in $2, says Fast X opening weekend predictions. Mine is 100 million. That sounds about right. 100 million. Yeah. Could see that. 100 million, 120 million, something like that. 90 million, maybe. I could see it being in the I could see it being under 100 million. But you're in the ballpark. Yeah, it's probably going to be something like that. You know, I don't know. I won't be there, but but there's a lot of Fast and Furious fans, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. The Horror Channel, Cecil. I'm assuming it's Cecil. Says, hey, Dave, getting excited to show everyone our new trailer soon. What trailer? What trailer? Oh, yeah! Dylan's New Nightmare. Yes, that's right. Dylan's New Nightmare. Let everybody know in the chat room, Cecil, if you're still there, what the plan is, if you are able to tell anybody the plan. Because I know there's a trailer, but I think there's a teaser trailer. And when people, I know there's probably not an exact date yet, but what's the ballpark of what people can expect? What's the ballpark of what people can expect? But yeah, very excited. Obviously, that is coming very soon. People will get their first look at Dylan's New Nightmare, which is exciting. Again, the summertime, don't have an exact release date yet, but the summertime is when they are projecting the release of the movie. And I'm eager to have it out there because then I can talk all about it. I can post all the behind the scenes photos that I have and the videos that I have and all that kind of stuff. There's lots of, and of course, Cecil's got a lot of stuff and he had a BTS guy that was shooting a ton of stuff. It's all this stuff that I would love to be out there for everybody to see. But of course, we have to be a little hush hush at the moment. Oh, God, you thought I was serious. You thought I was serious. It's just the acting right there, baby. Teaser trailer aimed to drop before the end of the month, with the full trailer following a week later, I believe. So this is coming from the writer and director and producer of Dylan's New Nightmare. Cecil Laird, the man himself, has just said that you can expect a teaser trailer for Dylan's New Nightmare to drop before the end of the month. So within the next few weeks. With the full trailer following a week later. So projecting either at the end of the month or maybe the first week or two of April. So very exciting stuff indeed. Exciting. I can't wait to see what kind of pop it gets. And I have seen both assembly edits of the teaser and the trailer. And I think people will dig it. Very excited indeed. Lulu Pomerania says, "Hi, Dave. What do you think about movie directors, studios pushing their personal agendas into movies, remakes, going against the fans, and even losing money over it?" I think I talked about this. Okay, look. It's a loaded question because we live in a world where there are definitely films and stories that are told that have agendas, that have a narrative or a theme to it that the social commentary or agenda is very front and center. It is not subtext. It is just there. Right? It is there. It is basically like Black Christmas 2019, which is not really a movie with a political message. It's a political message with a movie attached to it, in my opinion. Then you have stories that are being told that are not woke, that are not as overt as what people are saying they are. You just get a certain section of the population that believe everything is woke, no matter what. They glom on to buzzwords, right? They really, and they just sort of recycle the groupthink confirmation bias that is out there in the world of fandom. They really have no idea what they're talking about. They just think everything is woke. I mean, the second you see two gay guys in a movie, oh, come on! It's like, no. That's not how it works, right? You know what I mean? But there's people that are like that. So the important thing is this. If you don't like it, don't go see it. People should be allowed to make whatever they want. I didn't agree with the direction that Sophia Takal and April Wolf took with Black Christmas 2019. I didn't agree with it. Should they have been allowed to make it? Yes, of course. Of course. They wanted to say something. They had something to say. They wrote it. They were hired. They wrote it. They felt this was important. So yes, of course. Now, my advice would have been that if this message is really important, right? If this isn't just about virtue signaling, right? And appearing that, right? And you really believe in this, well, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Then maybe we should deliver it a little more, nuanced, right? More of subtext and not beating people over the head with it, because then you're going to come across as pretentious, condescending, and, that's not good, right? Because then whatever message you had in the movie gets lost in translation. Now, that's my opinion. Not everybody feels that way. Not everybody sees it the way I do, okay? But yes, there are films out there that are very overt in their messaging or their virtue signaling, and it can rub a lot of people the wrong way. And my advice would always be, if you really believe in the message you are sending, then it's best delivered nuanced and with subtext, and it's woven into the fabric of the narrative, rather than feeling like we stopped for 20 minutes to deliver some sort of PSA or some gigantic 90-minute PSA. That's where you're going to lose a lot of your audience, because nobody likes to be told what to think or how to think. People like to be given, both sides of an equation and then being able to make up their own minds, right? But if it's delivered in a really compelling way, even if the movie has something to say and the movie leans towards one way, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with the movie having a message and saying something, and by the end of that movie, it's clear that the message is leaning one. That's fine. You don't have to like it, but writers, directors, filmmakers should absolutely be allowed to tell the stories, whatever stories they want to tell. Whatever stories they want to tell. If you don't like it, don't go see it. And if millions of people don't like it, then millions of people should put their money where their mouth is, or lack of money where their mouth is, and not pay the money to go see it. And then the more movies and stories that don't make money because nobody's going to see it, they won't continue to do that. They only continue to do it because people go see it, because they go, well, it's a Marvel movie and I want to see it. So they go see it. You know what I mean? But not every movie is like that. Just because it has a gay couple, or just because it's got a black woman, or just because, now the white woman is black, or that in and of itself doesn't automatically mean, oh, here we go, what's I walk, if I the first, no, it doesn't automatically mean that. Okay. You know what I mean? So I like to be, because I've seen both sides. I've seen instances where I'm like, yeah, that's totally exactly that. And then I've seen instances where I'm like, guys, stop. You don't know. Not everything. Stop it. No, it's not. It's not, right? So it's a nuanced discussion that I am semi-qualified to talk about. And I say semi because obviously, as a filmmaker, as somebody who understands the filmmaking process and the different positions and the nuances of storytelling and all that kind of stuff, I can speak on that. But as somebody who is not on the other side, who works on that side of inclusivity and all that stuff, I there's probably things I don't know. But just at face value with what you're saying, we have to be very careful not to label everything that way just because it's got, a woman in it. You know what I mean? No, it's, now where I will agree with you is things like, changing Indiana Jones to a woman, instead. So when you reboot it, you make Indiana Jane or something. It's like, no, I don't think that absolutely is trying to appear inclusive and just it's riding on and it's ironic because you're riding on the coattails of the Indiana Jones name. So if it is successful, how do you know it's successful because you delivered a great product or you just had the name, right? So it's very important that original characters are continued to be made and created with female leads. Write great stories with great characters, and we will all show up. But to your point, yes, nobody likes to be talked down to or told what to think or beaten over the head with some sort of message. But I think it's a nuanced discussion. Right? It's a nuanced discussion. It's not black and white. It's not black and white. Raymond M sends in $2, says, can you afford Scream 6 tickets? I can discount you. That's okay, Raymond. It's all right. Evil Alex says, there's a difference between a message against the status and putting characters that aren't present on screen. A lot. Black Christmas 2019 is a message, not a film. Well, yeah, it's just what I've been talking about. It's just important. I believe it's important that whether you are the studio, whether you are the filmmaker, if you truly believe in the message, then it's best delivered with nuance and subtext. Always. Always. That doesn't mean you cannot deliver a very overt, thing, but then you're likely to, get what you get. You know what I'm saying? But should they be allowed to do it? Of course. Of course. Right? Absolutely. It's art. Do whatever the fuck you want. Robert Thidoff says, Dave, who is the scarier opponent in the Rocky franchise? Clubber Lang or Ivan Drago? I've always thought Drago was scarier. And I think it's because he didn't speak. Except for, I must break you, things like that. Or if he dies, he dies, that kind of stuff. He was a minimalist in terms of his speaking. So I always found that Ivan Drago was far scarier. I mean, just because he's bigger, don't get me wrong. They also had him, Dolph Lundgren, although much taller than Sly, is not that much taller than Sly. I mean, there's that shot, in the movie where like Sly is, at his belly button or something. I mean, they had him on a box. But in the movie, he's that big, right? And so just his size, his punching power, the fact that he doesn't speak and he's just there and he's Russian, and he's just looking around like this. It's just, yeah, it's all, and the whole stakes, it's the Cold War, us versus them versus us. You know what I mean? It's the whole dynamic of everything. I think Drago was although I know Rocky IV is seen as a bit cartoony, it's great. And it leans into that. It makes no apologies for it, right? It leans into that. So I would say that Drago is probably the more intimidating, scarier opponent. I think so. Clubber Lang, he wouldn't be somebody I'd want to meet, in an alley or something like that. But I didn't really find him scary. Tough. You can tell he's a tough guy. He's a tough guy. Scary, I don't know. There's something about Drago that's scary, And he fucking kills Apollo Creed. Like, if he dies, he dies. Crazy stuff. Raymond says, I was asking because my dad owns an AMC in Arizona. Well, that's great. Well, Raymond, we don't have AMC here in Canada, though. We don't have AMC here in Canada. It's okay. You don't have to get me anything for free. You don't have to pay for anything. You don't have to get anything for free. I appreciate it, but it's okay. It's all right. You go see the movie for free yourself. That's what you need to do. Let me see here. Did I miss any I don't think I missed any super chats, right? I've got them all so far. I believe I have anyway. I believe I've got them all so far. I think. I'm just going to scroll back here and see if there's any juicy ones. And if you're just joining us, folks, at the beginning of the show, of course, I was talking about the autopsy of Jane Doe and the sadness. You can, of course, go back and watch the beginning of the show for my thoughts on that. And don't forget to jump into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts on the autopsy of Jane Doe and the sadness. 2 horror movies that I'm late to the party on. That I just watched both last night, and I really like the autopsy of Jane Doe. I really like that movie, but I really love the first half of that movie more than the second half. I like the second half. I just love the first half. But overall, at the end of the day, really good film, and I really enjoyed it. And the sadness, I liked it for what it was, but it was very sad, very dystopian, very sad, very depressing. I was in the shower for about 4 hours and 38 minutes scrubbing after that, I could see blood on me where there was none. It was crazy. One of the bloodiest, goriest films I've ever seen for sure. I would love to know how many gallons of blood they used on that film. I don't know. Hey, Darren, the slaughtered lamb is here. Great to see you here, Darren. Sean McCarney sends in £4 and 49 pence. It says, Dave, after watching it again recently, I don't believe they boinked for real in Don't Look Now, but I could understand folks thinking that at the time. You must follow me on social media, maybe. I made a post. So another horror, it's not really a horror movie, it's more of a psychological thriller film that I watched a couple of days ago. I haven't done a video on it because it probably wouldn't, if this live stream's only got 75 people watching, I don't think Don't Look Now is probably gonna have like 8 people. But I would say that, Don't Look Now is a psychological horror movie from the early 70s, 1973, starring Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie. And I think she's 82 now or something like that. She's beautiful in this movie. And it's a movie that I was aware of, but I had never seen. And I was unaware of this sex scene controversy in this movie. Controversy. And so there's a sex scene in the middle of the movie between Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie that is pretty convincing. Now, it's convincing. I agree with you, by the way, Sean. It's convincing. It's because of the way it's shot, right? It's very sensual, very sexual, the angles. Now, I think another reason why it's so convincing is because they clearly are really naked. And I don't know if they had their groins covered or not. Like, in a lot of cases in sex scenes, if all you're seeing is just the top of the, like the torsos and they're in bed together, they're not bottomless, right? They might have a pair of jeans on under there. Who knows, right? But this is like full. Now, you don't see Donald Sutherland's ding-a-lang, but I mean, you basically see everything else. And it's very sensual, very sexual, very stylized, very erotic, and so it really gives this sense of holy shit. Like, you almost are not expecting it in the middle of this movie. And for years there's been a, did they, didn't they, will they admit it, won't they admit it? And both Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie have said from the, no, of course not. We didn't. It was very calculated. It was very classy. It wasn't, you know what I mean? It was, and Sutherland is right, and something that I've talked about on this channel, not that I've ever been in one or ever shot one, but is that sex scenes are, I've spoken to actors who have, and sex scenes are rarely, if ever, sexy. In the movie, it looks like it is because you're lost in the movie in the moment. But during the filming of said sex scene, there's, the DP is there, the camera operator, the boom operator, maybe if they're not shooting, MOS. And then, of course, you got the director in there. You got maybe, the key grip in there or something. You got, I mean, it's not sexy. There's a group of people all going, okay, now do this. Now put your arm up like this. Now, it's not sexy. It's in the movie it does because they replaced the sound. They got the music. They're slowing it down. Nice shots of the curve of her ass or so. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Of course, because it's made to look that way. But the filming of it, no. Sutherland said that they were also shooting on, I forget, one of the cameras they were shooting on was noisy as hell. So it would have been shot MOS without sound. And the old film cameras back in the day, so he said, we're shooting like 20-second intervals of us, pretending to be sexual with each other. All the while we're hearing, which of course is the film camera. Now that's taken out, in post. But he said, no, there was nothing sexy about it at all. We'd shoot 20 seconds here, 20 seconds there, which makes sense when you're shooting on film for sure. Because you can run out of footage pretty quick. So yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I don't think they did. It just was really well shot. And also too, I think what helps, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say this, what helps is that it goes on and on and on. And it really starts with them in the bathroom, right? Because Julie Christie's character is in the bathtub and she's naked. And Donald Sutherland is naked. You can see his ass. He's clearly naked. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where it starts. And then you go to the bedroom and to the bed, and it's got to be like, I swear, and this is not hyperbole, it's got to be like 5 minutes long. I'm not kidding. Which doesn't sound like it, but that's a lot of screen time. That's a lot of screen time. It's got to be at least 5 minutes long, if not longer. I'd be shocked if it was like 2 minutes. It's no way. It's long. Whatever it is, it's long and it's drawn out. So you're sitting there and you're like, holy, and you're just watching this. And I think that helps to create the illusion of authenticity. That it's just like this long, drawn out, sexual, sensual sort of thing. Yeah, it's famous for it, but I agree with you. And the movie I liked. I didn't love it. I didn't think it was amazing. Don't like it as much as I like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, another Donald Sutherland, eerie, paranoia kind of movie that happened 5 years later. But I liked it. I did. And I liked the mood. I liked the atmosphere. I liked that it was not only set in Venice, but it was shot in Venice, which I thought was really good. I've never been over there, obviously. And obviously I know it's like, 50 years ago, but it's neat to see the architecture and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's the cobblestone streets and the alleyways and the stone buildings. It makes for a great psychological thriller. And that one scene when he thinks he sees his wife on the boat with because I too was like, what's going on here? And things are kind of acting weird. She's kind of acting. And then you realize, oh my God, it's a fucking premonition. That was probably my favorite part of the whole thing. That was brilliant. That reveal was great. I was like, oh, fuck, no way. Really good film. Really enjoyed it. Yeah, I thought it was good. Don't Look Now, 1973, Donald Sutherland, Julie Christie. Really liked it. Edward Nito sends in another $10. Thanks, Edward, and says, I have a dachshund and he's half pit bull. He has the dachshund frame with muscle mass of a pit bull. That's cool. I named him Drago. Oh, that's so cool. He's the buffiest sausage dog I've ever seen. That's amazing, Edward. That's awesome. Well, shout out to Drago, the dachshund. I said Dashed Hound. The Dash Hound, half pit bull, that's so cool. That's awesome. Dude, I can see him like this and he's all like decked out and everything. That's so cool. That's awesome. He must break you. What a great name. What a great name. That's awesome. Darren Sand says, Amazon are running out of copies of Don't Look Now as we speak. Can you imagine? Even listening to Dave talking about it is getting me going. Well, it's just the way I talk about the sensual, sexual curves of the acidular area. That's funny. Yeah, it's a good movie. I liked it. Again, dated, of course, but it's good. Like once you realize, although I think I said this to you, Darren, when I told you I had watched it, it took me probably about, I want to say maybe 20, 25 minutes to get into it because I was a little confused at first, just stylistically with some of the editing and some of the cuts. I wasn't quite sure what the director was trying to tell me. So I was a little confused at first, but found its groove, got into it, was able to follow along. And then by the end, I was like, oh, fuck, no way. No way. It's pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool stuff. All right, I got the super chats correct. I want to make sure I'm not missing any super chats. All right, 15 minutes left in the show, folks. 15 minutes left in the show. Again, for those of you that may not know how McRae Live works, it doesn't mean we can't go up longer if we need to, but generally speaking, McRae Live episodes are 90 minutes. I like to keep them to 90 minutes, generally. I mean, if there's a topic that warrants a massive major discussion, then, we have the freedom to go past 90 minutes. But I think the Autopsy of Jane Doe and the Sadness don't fit that bill. Chester Franklin Jr. says, Dave, what are your thoughts on Cujo movie? Also, the dog wasn't well in the movie. I like Cujo. I haven't seen it in a while, but I like Cujo. I think it's one of the better Stephen King 1980s adaptations, for sure. I'd put it probably on the same level as like a Christine, but not quite Carrie. I think Carrie's better. But yeah, Cujo, I like Cujo better than I like Children of the Corn. The only thing, I don't dislike Children of the Corn, but Children of the Corn's got one of the best fucking moments, man, when they're driving on the road and that kid comes out of nowhere. It's one of the best jump scare moments where I'm like, wow, just the way it look. Can you imagine? And the way he's like lying on the road and they pull over and the flies are around him and they walk over to him and shit. It's fucking great. I think that's probably the best part in that movie. Whenever I think of Children of the Corn, that's what I think of. But anyway, you asked about Cujo. Yeah, I like it. I like Cujo. Dee Wallace, again, of course, if I'm not mistaken. It's her, right? Yeah. But I would put it on the same level as a Christine. Like, I like Christine. I think it's good. But I think Carrie is better. And I think, what what are Stephen King adaptations? Well, I mean, The Shining, but that's almost unfair. You had Kubrick. It's a little unfair. Yeah, I don't mind it. I think it's all right. Josh McKenna sends in $4.99. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate that. Says, do you think it's necessary to cut scenes out of a movie if it's only a 30-second clip to help the flow of the movie? 30 seconds doesn't seem very long. No, it doesn't seem look, a 5-second clip, a 10-second clip can make or break the pacing of a movie. It all depends, Josh, on the information that is in that clip, right? Is it dialogue that is it dialogue you don't need because the information is not properly motivated, or it's already been presented, or it's just extra? It's superfluous. I mean, it's do you know what I mean? Or is it something that is cruel? Like, you have to look at it and go, yes, yes, this scene does go on, but this information is important, right? You have to ask yourself, if we cut this out, whatever that 30 seconds is, if removing this 30 seconds, it helps the pacing, sure, but does the narrative suffer? Does the story suffer because you removed important information? Whether it's a discussion between two characters, a sign on a wall, a text message on a phone, is it integral? Yeah, maybe it's an extra 30 seconds and it slows things down a little bit, but that information is integral to the story. Those are that's what you have to think about, right? I mean, you can't just go in and arbitrarily cut 30 seconds out of a movie, because you could be cutting the wrong 30 seconds out of a movie, right? You have to be very calculated in what you're removing, right? And so, yeah, you just have to make sure that what you're removing isn't integral to the story. And that the audience is not going to miss anything or suddenly become confused because that piece of information is no longer there. So no, 30 seconds doesn't seem like a long time, but it is. It is, and it can make or break. It can, yeah. It definitely can slow things down and help speed things up, for sure. For sure. And thank you, Josh, for the super chat. I appreciate that. Joey Davis says, Dave, you ever seen the movie Magic with Anthony Hopkins, adapted from one of my favorite books? I have not. And I like Anthony Hopkins. Magic with Anthony Hopkins. Let me just do a quick Google search here. Why it's not coming to my brain. 1978. Okay, that's probably why. So this is long before he hit the mainstream here in North America with Silence of the Lambs. A ventriloquist is at the mercy of his vicious dummy while he tries to renew a romance with his high school sweetheart. Count me. Oh, Richard Attenborough. Richard Attenborough directed it? The Richard Attenborough? Yeah. The Richard Attenborough from Jurassic Park. I have an Uncle Graham, my mother's brother, who lives in Italy, just outside Rome. There are some days he looks like Santa Claus, and there are other days where he looks, in my opinion, exactly like Richard Attenborough. He looks like Richard Attenborough, and his father, my grandfather, who's no longer here, he's been dead for years. There's young photos of my mother's dad, my grandfather, Lewis Hunt, who looks, in my opinion, like Robert Shaw. Looks like Robert Shaw, which, I mean, they're both British, right? They're both English. So, and my mother was English. My mother was born in England. I'm half English, in case you guys didn't know that, for those of you that may not know. She came to Canada in 1956 when she was 12. So, maybe it's a British thing. I don't know. I have no idea. No idea. English thing, I guess I should say. Correct. But yeah, I don't know. But that's really cool. No, I haven't seen this movie. I have not seen this movie. So that's pretty cool. I'll try to remember to put that on the list as something to watch. Thanks for the recommendation. Appreciate that. Vegas Courier says, I don't think anyone likes movies where everyone dies. It just kills the mood. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. You're talking about the sadness, right? Is that what you're talking about? I remember, yeah, when she goes out onto the roof, and of course you don't see it. All you hear is... And he's just sitting, her boyfriend, who's obviously now been compromised, is just there with a big smile on his face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. I think that plays into the way I felt, for sure. Yes. But just the entire movie is very dystopian and dreary and just, yeah. And I don't think although the woman who played Kat was better, I think a better actor, at least in this movie, than the gentleman who played Jim. I doubt the translation's actually Jim. Maybe, but I doubt it. But the guy who played Jim, and this isn't a knock, I don't know him, I haven't seen him in anything else. I just found him really dull. And I just wanted more reaction from him. Like, fuck, dude, look what's happening. And I just found him kind of dull, so I didn't really care. I didn't really care about him, really. I hoped he didn't die because it'd be nice to see them get back together and, get to safety. But I really wasn't attached to him. I became attached to her a little more because she was a little more animated than he was. And we spent, certainly in the second half of the movie, we spent pretty much all our time with her. So I was more attached to her. And I was like, oh, she got killed. Oh, that's too bad. But I just think there wasn't that, like in Train to Busan, right? You really become attached to the characters, right? And all of them pretty much die. Now, again, it has a bit of a different ending, right? There's hope because, the little girl gets to the checkpoint where there's the military. So, look, if the little girl had died and, fair. And it's a good point that you're making. But I still think you can have a dystopian sort of everybody dies movie and still be like, wow, yeah, man, that was a great film. If you felt something for the characters, if you really felt something for the characters. I just don't think the sadness, I really felt anything for the characters, especially the guys, especially Jim. It just was kind of dull to me. He was kind of emo, kind of melancholy through the whole thing. But that's me. That's me. That is me. Justin Hill says, Magic was great. Shocked you didn't know that one, Dave. Yeah, I'd never heard of it. I got to check it out. Got to check out Magic now. Got to check out Magic. Still got to check out the, The Dark Night of the Scarecrow or The Last Night of the Scarecrow. Still got to check out that one too. Haven't checked it out. Still got to check it out. Got to check it out. Evil Alex says, just watched Black Phone. The Black Phone. Have you seen it? I have. I've talked about it on the channel. I don't have a video on it, but I've talked about it in passing like this. I thought it doesn't show too much of the killer and the weird paranormal vibe was interesting. Yeah, the Black Phone, I think, I don't dislike the Black Phone. I don't dislike it. I think it's fine. It's good. It's a competently made, perfectly serviceable horror movie. But I didn't love it. And I do think it's overrated in comparison to the hype that it was getting. I don't think you needed to show the kids. I think the Black Phone would have been far more effective if we never saw the children. Once we saw the children, it became a little gimmicky to me. And I think it just would have been more effective if we only heard the kids on the phone. I also think that jump scare that doesn't make any sense to me, seeing a dead kid levitating in the corner, felt out of place to me. It's a cool visual, definitely a good jump scare, but it kind of felt like we need a jump scare in this movie. It's not scary enough. So let's put this here. Because I'm like, why is the kid levitating in the car? Like, I don't understand why they would come to him. If they're trying to help him, why would they show him that? Or why would that appear to him or whatever? I got to watch the movie again. I've only seen it once. But I remember thinking that, going, I don't know about this, Again, I didn't dislike the movie. But I just... there was a lot of hype around it. Like, a lot of hype around it. And when I watched it, I was like, oh, okay. I felt a similar vibe about X. I think I like X better than The Black Phone. I do like X better than The Black Phone. But X, I think, was a little overrated. Not as much as The Black Phone. But there was same with it. There was a lot of hype around X, and I was like, well, it's okay. It's fine. It didn't blow me away or anything. I think his earlier work is better. Yeah. So, The Black Phone it's good. It's horror light. Like if you had like a teenager who was like 12 or something and you wanted to get them into horror, that's a good movie. It's a good modern horror movie to show them, I think. The themes are kind of like, oh my God, about these dead kids being taken. And, I get that. But in terms of like any sort of imagery or scares or, blood or, I wouldn't show them the sadness. You know what I mean? So I thought it was good, but I thought it was just overrated a bit. But that also might not be fair, right? Because it could just be because of the push that it was getting from Blumhouse and, all I gotta see it. Oh my God, Ethan, all this kind of stuff. And obviously, a well-oiled marketing campaign and a well-oiled marketing machine can do that, right? Can set your expectations really high that when you go in, it's like, oh, the movie's good. It's a good movie, but it's not as good as the marketing made it seem. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of how I felt about it. It's good. Justin Hill says, hit that right on the nose, Dave. Seeing the kids slightly took me out of the movie each time I saw it. Yeah, I felt the same. I felt the same way. I just didn't think it was necessary. If I was in the writer's room, I would have been like, we can do this. Like, and it's not wrong. Like, it's not like it ruins the movie or something. I wouldn't like advise, but I would, if anybody ever wanted my opinion, who cares about what I think, but I'd be like, is it necessary? That's what I would say. I'd say, is it necessary? If I was reading, although it'd be hard to know. See, it'd be hard to know just by the script too, because if you're reading the script, and there are script readers that read scripts. If you're reading the script, depending on how you envision it in your own mind, it may work for you, right? Because what I imagine by reading a book or a script isn't necessarily what you imagine. It all depends on how descriptive the script is or how descriptive the action is. And so, it kind of depends. Reading the script, it may work on paper. It might have just been the execution. But if I knew that it was going to be executed in that way, like at a test screening or something, if I saw it early or if I just saw, I don't know, some dailies or something, I could see myself saying, is it necessary to show the kid, the kid talking to him on the phone? Can we just keep it to disembodied voice? I think that's creepier. I think that's eerier. But if they, if he was like, no, Scott Derrickson, I think is the director of that movie, right? The guy that did Sinister, which I love. Sinister, I love. I would have been like, is it necessary? And if he was like, well, it's not necessary, but I definitely want it. Well, then leave it in, right? That's your vision, man. That's your vision, right? It's just because I'm like, I don't know if I would have done that. Doesn't mean it certainly worked for a lot of people. And it's not that it doesn't work. I just think it's scarier without seeing the kids. Like how you feel, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's just, do we need to do that? I don't know. Okay, we can leave it in. It's just, yeah, I get you, man. I get you. Aaron Click says, that's how I felt about a lot of recent movies. The marketing and buzz overhyped many recent new releases, more so lately than more in the past. Yeah, that's true. And then of course you combine, you combine the world of fandom online, the world of movie pundits and movie reviewers. And then you get guys like me who, in the YouTube space, I guess I'm a movie, a movie commentator, I guess. you know? I'm not really a pundit because I think you got to do this on the regular as a pundit. But, you know, it's saturated, right? And everybody is tuning in to find out what they can find out before they even see the movie. So there's a lot of hype that is built not only around the marketing coming from the studios in terms of the posters and the promotional materials and the 30-second promos and the trailers and the teasers and the ads and the, you know, the character posters and the, you know, it's coming from all the YouTube channels too, right? All the speculation. And I'm not saying I'm not a part of it. Of course I'm a part of it. Of course, especially when it comes to Halloween. Right? So we build it up and we create this image in your own mind. You know, maybe it's easier to disassociate for me because of A, just the kind of person I am, and B, because I'm always trying to have an objective point of view, sort of keeping things in check. I try not to allow myself to get too hyped up. But if you're somebody that's watching me, you know, and depending on what I'm talking about, my energy and talking about stuff, I mean, you might be going, I can't wait. You know what I mean? Depending on how the picture is painted, depending on who you're watching, you know, who that channel is might paint a real interesting picture and hype it up, and then you go in and then it doesn't end. And it's not that the movie's bad, and it's not that the movie's not really good. It is, the movie's really good, but it's not just the level of God expectations that was painted through the promotional material and online movie fandom space. So it can be tricky. It can be really tricky to disassociate yourself and go in with I mean, I don't know about no expectations, but certainly as little expectations as possible. It can be really, really tricky. All right, folks, that's going to do it for this episode of McRae Live. Thank you to my amazing moderators, Frank Riker, Top of the Short, Darren Sands, Chris Baber, Cody Snyder, Andrew Stevens. I think I got everybody. Right? I think I did. Yeah, I was going to go on. I think I got everybody. Thank you very much for doing what you guys do. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you to the Super Chat questions, of course, that came in today. Really appreciate that. And those non-Super Chat questions as well. Really appreciate that. If you're watching after the fact or even live right now, when the stream is done, comment below and let me know your thoughts on what you thought, if you've seen them, on the Autopsy of Jane Doe and, of course, The Sadness as well. Two completely different movies. Both in the horror space, but two completely different subgenres of horror. But let me know your thoughts and let me know if you agree with some of the things I've had to say here today on those two movies. I would love to know. If you want to follow me on social media, you can. There are my links right there. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. All my links are in the description. Check them out until your heart's content. And when your heart is content, check them out again. That's going to do it for me. I will be back soon. In the meantime and in between time, there we go. I got it. I'm good. I'm getting it. I will talk to you soon. Cheers.